Good morning. Welcome to our work group meeting. We are going to wait for a couple of more minutes till folks can join us and settle, then we'll start. Okay, it seems that numbers are slowing down. We can go ahead and get started. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our fourth work group meeting on the financing system project implementation. My name is Ali Koustani, and I'm the lead staff over the financing system project. I'm joined today by Lisa McComber, Chief of the Equitable Mobility Incentive Branch, and my colleague Bianca Smith, who helps us with the questions. Before we start, I wanted to go over some logistics for today's discussion. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. A copy of the recording will be made available on the Low Carbon Transportation Investments and Air Quality Improvement Program meetings and workshops webpage in about 2 weeks. Materials for today's work group, including the agenda and slides, are available on the same webpage, and a link to these materials will be dropped in the Zoom chat. Please use Zoom's raise hand feature to make a comment or ask your questions. If there are Zoom disruptions for any reason, including malicious intent, we will immediately end today's meeting and send out another notice to reschedule. And lastly, we are unable to allow anonymous meeting participants for security reasons. Please make sure your name is clear on the Zoom platform. If you have called in, we will adjust your phone number and call on you if you raise your hand based on the last 4 digits of your phone number. For today's meeting, we will begin with a quick program background and update, and then we'll touch on the needs-based model and provide some details of the model implementation. Then we will discuss program reopening proposal, and at the end, we'll have some time for questions and answers and discussion. Financing a System project came to existence as a pilot project about 7 or 8 years ago to assist low-income consumers to purchase zero-emission vehicles by providing vehicle and charging grants and facilitating access to low-interest loans. Over the years, 2 programs at local and state level implemented different ideas which helped us reshape and refine the project and learn valuable lessons. We have spent about $42 million to help more than 4,700 low-income consumers purchase clean vehicles. The 2 programs are Clean Vehicle Assistance Program, or CVA program, that is statewide, and the small program or local program is Drive Clean Assistance Program, which serves about 14 counties in Northern California. Through the years, both programs experienced high demand and shutdowns despite increased funding allocation and programmatic changes to ensure programs remain open all year round, and funds are available to very low-income consumers. The first come, first serve model used in this project did not offer equal opportunity to very low-income consumers who needed these incentives the most. Often when they were ready to purchase a clean vehicle and needed these incentives, funds were drained and programs were closed. We also missed multiple opportunities to launch campaigns and pilots that were specifically designed and target and benefit disadvantaged communities or communities that did not benefit from our funds proportionately, just because we ran out of money sooner than expected. Numerous program closures led us to think of a different approach in which funds can be available equitably all year round to the most in need low-income consumers. And that was when the needs-based model idea was born. And with the help of our program administrators and feedback from stakeholders, we developed the framework of the model and metrics to identify needs. We hope the needs-based model can help us be more intentional in our efforts to support low-income consumers purchasing ZIVs and keep the programs open throughout the year so they can access state incentives when they are ready and need them. Through several workgroup meetings and workshops and extensive discussions with the stakeholders' input, we narrowed down 4 major criteria to identify applications as high priority. These indicators are living in disadvantaged or low-income communities, income level, need for financial counseling for credit repair, and categorical eligibility are the 4 major indicators to prioritize applications. This slide illustrates how the needs-based model and 4 main indicators work to rank applications based on the importance of their needs. Tier 1 is for the applicants who reside in disadvantaged or low-income communities across the state and with income less than 300% of the federal poverty level. These applications will be processed immediately, and the goal is to keep the program open to them all year. Applicants who do not live in disadvantaged or low-income communities, but their income is less than 225% of the federal poverty level, or are eligible for other states' low-income programs such as Medicaid, SSI, CAPI, CalWorks, HOT, Section 8, also known as categorical eligibility, or consumers who need financial counseling and time to repair their credit score are ranked and fall under Tier 2. We aim to process these applications in less than 30 days, and the program will be closed to this group if there is only less than 25% of the total funds remain. Applicants who do not meet the criteria of Tier 1 and 2, but their income is less than 300% of the federal poverty level fall into Tier 3. The goal is to process their applications in around 30 days, and the program will be closed to them if 50% of the funds are exhausted. You have seen this infographic before. We just modified it and added a little bit more information here. But before we move on to the next slide, the next topic, I would like to make a pause and open the lines for any questions or comments you might have.
Ali, it looks like there's no questions at this time.
We have one that has popped up.
Okay.
Yep. Lorena Garcia, I've just unmuted or opened up your line. Feel free to unmute it.
Excuse me. Hi, I'm just curious, in the previous round of funding for this program, how quickly did you get, or was in terms of how quickly did the tiers close, getting to 25 and 50% of remaining funds?
Hi, Lorena. Thank you for your question. We, as of right now, our current programs do not have these tiers. The financing assistance project was designed in such a simple way to make low-income consumers access to these funds very easy. So the only criteria that we had was 400% being low income, 400% or below of the federal poverty level. And the last round of funding for the statewide program, when we relaunched it in February of 2020, right before the pandemic hit, it lasted about 7 months, despite the pandemic and everything was closed down. The introduction and launch of Tesla Model 3 and Model Y was a main factor to drive the demand. So we ran out of money. The smaller program, CHDC in the Northern California, the last allocation lasted about 1.5 years, which was significant, $4 million, which typically it was more than what they could spend in about 1 year or 2. But because of other low-income programs, incentive programs were closed, that was the only program available, and they ran out of money in September of this year. So these tiers are proposals, and moving forward, we are going to rank new applications based on their criteria that I discussed, and they fall into different criteria.
Thank you so much. That's helpful.
Sure.
Thank you, Lorena. We have one other person with a raised hand. Paul Haugen, I've just opened up your line.
Yes, hi, thank you. My point, or just something to bring to your attention, is my concern for seniors who are, of course, often on low income and fixed incomes, to somehow be able to prioritize them. I think that electric vehicles, for folks who are still driving anyway, are with all the safety features. I guess all the new cars have them, but with the safety features that are more important, I think, maybe to seniors than younger generations, and not to forget this population in making your program decisions.
Thank you very much, Paul, for your suggestion. Definitely we'll take them into consideration.
And that's all for raised hands right now.
Great. Just a reminder that at the end of the work group today, we are going to have more opportunities for questions if there's any. At this point, I'd like to provide a quick update on the status of our current programs. Clean Vehicle Assistance Program, or CVAP, is closed to new applications, but we are serving the remaining applications on the reservation list. Based on our calculation and the number of applications on the list, we allocated about $8 million to serve the applications on the list. However, over the last year, and due to the changes in the market as a result of global supply chain issues, increased prices, and new and used vehicle shortage in the market, we had a lower than usual conversion rate. This means fewer applications finished the purchase process and redeemed their grants. As a result, our initial analysis suggests that we will have $4 million available once all the applications on the reservation list are paid out. The smaller and local program, Drive Cleaning Assistance Program, ran out of money in September, but we have some funds available from last fiscal year, and we can allocate $1 million to reopen the program to new applications. Reopening the programs as a stopgap would help low-income consumers to access funds while we run the solicitation and onboard the grantee to launch the new needs-based model in 2023. We recommend reopening both programs only to residents of disadvantaged and low-income communities. We also recommend implementing changes approved by the board last year to lower the income cap to 300% of the federal poverty level, and also implement a purchase price cap of $45,000 to prevent the purchase of very expensive vehicles. We also recommend offering new incentive amounts proposed in this year's funding plan approved by the board. That means $7,000 for plug-in hybrids and $7,500 for battery electric vehicles. As I mentioned before, the goal of the limited reopening of the current programs is to stop the gap until the new program with the needs-based model becomes available. We hope that sometime in third quarter of 2023, we can reopen the program with the needs-based model. With that, I'll stop and would be happy to take your comments or questions. Please use the raised hand function of the Zoom and #2 if calling in by phone. Please state your name and affiliation before asking a question or making a comment.
We've got one raised hand from Andrew Krulowitz. Andrew, I've opened your line.
Hi, good morning, Ali and
Morning.
Lisa. Thanks so much for hosting. One quick question on just what you covered and a few others. The first is that $45,000 price cap. Is that the MSRP of the car, the base model, or is it trim specific? Is that the total capitalized cost coming out of the dealer, inclusive of taxes and fees? Or is that simply the price paid for the vehicle, exclusive of taxes and fees? It's my first question. And my second question, not covered here, is leasing still available? Or is it, are the program guidelines otherwise going to stay largely the same based on what they were when they closed?
Thank you, Andrew, for your questions. The $45,000 initially in the last year's funding plan was $40,000, but considering the current market situation, we bumped it up to $45,000 and also be consistent with other programs. And it's a purchase price cap because under financing assistance, both new and used vehicles are eligible. So basically, what is going to be on the final contract is good. I'll defer to Lisa for the details on the tax, if tax is going, because I'm not quite sure how CVRP handles that, but we are going to be aligned with what CVRP does that.
Yeah, so this is where it will be a little bit different with the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project. That program has the MSRP caps, and so that's based on the manufacturer's suggested retail price. It doesn't include taxes, fees, and everything else. But with this project, it is a little bit different. The way that we're looking at it right now, and this is really as we drew upon in last year's funding plan, the feedback that we have received from folks is that if we base, especially when we're talking low-income programs and we're talking about programs that are really intended to have the funds available to support as many low-income consumers as possible, that it's really important for us to consider limiting the overall purchase, so that capital cost of the vehicle. That way we're not getting into the game of making it complex based on various trim levels or things like that, just having one number, and as long as the price comes in under that number. Like Ali said, it was set at 40. We did have some flexibility built into the funding plan for us to consider something to be kind of more in line with where we see the market. And based on, we do know the prices are a lot higher right now, but based on what we are seeing, we think that that is a reasonable price for folks to be able to get a pretty decent array of vehicles.
Lisa, I completely agree. And we're buying, cars by the dozens right now. But the fundamental question then is tax included in that cap cost or not? Because that'll show that's a 10% swing on somebody's purchase price out the door. So that's the difference between getting an EV and not getting an EV in some cases.
Yeah. So right now it would be part of, it would have to come in, the total price would have to come in.
Got it. Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. The next, sorry, Ali.
Sorry, Bianca. There's one more question that Andrew had regarding other changes. So last year in fiscal year 21-22, we proposed a suite of changes for financing assistance project from purchase price cap, loan cap, eligibility criteria, and lowering income criteria. Last year, we didn't receive much funding just to move on and implement all those kind of changes to the program, and there was a delay on that. We have a solicitation coming up with joint solicitation with Clean Cars, statewide Clean Cars for All. And as I mentioned, this reopening is going to be kind of a stopgap, just to make sure that low-income consumers have access to some funds. We recognize that the market has changed, and we are implementing and offering some of the changes that we proposed last year, including lowering the income cap to 300%, as well as retiring hybrids, and offering increased rebate. The other program criteria are going to be intact and the same as is for now. The needs-based implementation falls out of the scope of the current grant, so our program administrators cannot implement the needs-based models, so we have to wait for the new administrator and the solicitation to start working on that, which is the future program in 2023.
Awesome. Thank you, Ollie. Our next raised hand is LaDonna Williams. LaDonna, I've opened your line.
Yes, good morning. LaDonna Williams, all positive as possible. So I had a question about the benefits finder, since clearly, and my question was going to be, so thank you guys for answering, but my question was just going to be if those programs were closed and they were not made available to disadvantaged or low income folks, how were you guys planning on them being included so that they don't fall further behind? So I get it that you're making this a priority through this, but when you go to the benefits finder, and I, tried to do it myself as well, but folks that we had recommended to, utilize that, when they put in their zip codes, it kept coming up with a message, not available in this area at this time, or some sort of message like that. Has that changed for the folks to go through the benefits finder? Is that something you guys are updating, or were we getting this message because the programs were closed?
Ali, would you like me to take this?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, great question, LaDonna, and I'm really glad that you flagged that. So the benefits finder, for those who aren't familiar, is what we offer through our Access Clean California program, and it's intended to be kind of a hub for consumers to be able to apply and get access to any of the programs that they could qualify for. And when a consumer is coming in, and if they are getting a warning like that, it's likely because the programs were closed. And they won't be there yet because we haven't opened them up yet. I think today is our first opportunity to really say we've heard loud and clear over the last several months from folks saying we need to get this a financing option open, and that since there is some money left over from this, we see it as an opportunity to just bridge the gap, as Ollie said. But what we will do, though, LaDonna, is because we do want to make sure that consumers that are going to that portal are getting useful information. And so we are going to follow back up with the administrator. We'll run some tests and see, just make sure that there's not like a bug or something happening. But otherwise, if it is coming up that there's nothing in the area, it may be that somebody lives somewhere where the program is closed. And so unfortunately, it isn't there. One of the things I know we have talked about, and we'll continue to go back and talk about how we can build into that functionality too, is if a program is closed, to at least show it, or that there are potential future programs coming, so that it can help if somebody is doing early research, right? So that they know what to do, maybe if they're not buying today, but they think they might need to buy in a couple months. So at least they know what to incorporate that too.
Okay, I missed the last part because you froze.
Oh no.
You stopped and said something about it. What was that last little part there? Whatever that last little part there was, you were saying something about.
Yeah. So what we can do is have them, we can also talk with them about making sure that if you're not buying your research for needing something in the future, that at least we can maybe show what program is closed but might be opening, or provide some type of potential update for when it might be open.
Okay.
Yeah, so that consumers don't maybe miss that something is coming soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Ledana, to your first part of the question, how we are going to make sure that low-income communities and those communities who have left behind in the past can benefit from at least this bridge gap reopening. As you know, that in the past we piloted some ideas to work with community-based organizations and develop some mechanisms that applicants were referred by community-based organizations to the program administrators. So we are, and that was part of the one of the main pillars for developing the needs-based model, how we can make sure that those who live in disadvantaged communities or low-income communities need these incentives have proper access and equitable access to state funds. We have done that, and we are planning to work with our program administrators to use that approach and make sure that wherever we have communities who have been overlooked, we can pick them up at least at this time before walking or launching the needs-based model in 2023.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Our next person is Eric Landia. Erica, I've opened your line.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
My name's Erica, and I received a CVAP grant last year and could not use it because I received it in February of 2021, and I wasn't even vaccinated. I couldn't go back to work. My quadrant of job wasn't open. And so I had to give back the grant, and I've been waiting all year for your program to open back up. And I've been watching the town hall meetings and observing all of the complications that different administrative groups have been communicating and having work groups and more work groups and more meetings about transparency. And I've watched how you're trying to develop the program. And while I appreciate you're trying to reach all the DACs, I am struggling with frustration with the program not being open due to your administrative processes, even though you were given funding months ago. And I also wanted to tell you about a nuance of this cap that you're trying to create. The reality is that the range on the cars that are under your cap, especially with those huge taxes, are going to stifle people who actually need to commute to their jobs. And the reality is that when you have someone who's low income like me and my friends, we don't own our houses. We can't install chargers at our houses. So you have to go source a charger that can take, up to an hour to 3 hours to charge your battery. So the cap that you're creating, when people aren't allowed to invest in cars that have huge range, and a lot of those are on the Tesla level. I have friends in communities, folks who are investing in cars that give them range so that they can make their jobs and make their lives more streamlined, moving into electric and clean vehicles, and also hustling and renting them out on Turo to pay the car note. So the fact that you guys are taking it upon yourselves to create the cap to make your program work leaves out some nuance for people needing cars that have range and people who are willing to hustle to have the car that they want on the market. So I just want to tell you that you're disabling people and handicapping people from being able to do that. And it is frustrating to watch all the climate reports and watch all the administrators have static and not have these programs be open. And I've been watching it for 2 years and have been a huge proponent and have been on social media and been on Twitter and been on Instagram stories and telling people, watch these programs, watch my communities, my folks, like, and then have you not open, and then put all of these like limitations on the programs. And so I just wanted to say my piece because I've just been super vested in this. And as a party note, I would just say, I know that you guys had a job up on LinkedIn for community outreach to help facilitate these funds meet communities in need. You are underutilizing social media. CVAP tweets about 5 times a year. So I strongly encourage you to, when people get a grant, have them get on social media, tell their folks, tell their houses of faith, tell their work, to share the word organically and through social media, and use that as a tool to reach the communities, because I don't see that being used. And I know this was a lot. It wasn't just one question, because I'm going to dip out after this, because I had to buy, my 18-year-old car died in the meantime, waiting for you guys to open up their program. It had 268,000 miles on it, was not going to make it through this winter. So I had to go and bite the bullet, even though I'm like at the front of your list. And I had to buy a car, and I have a huge car payment right now. So I'm going to go hustle on Turo and rent it part of the month so I can pay my car note. But I did get a Tesla, and it does have good range, and I'm just making it work because that's what you do.
Thank you, Erica. And I can testify that at least for over the last year, you have been in touch and contact with me personally, sending notes and email, and you have been patiently waiting. And I apologize that we couldn't move quicker. A series of events over the last 2 years caused a lot of hurdle for us to move faster. We, when we relaunched the program back in February of 2020, the statewide program, we made significant changes to the program just to make sure, from the lessons learned and the first phase of program implementation, we just wanted to make sure that these funds are available all year round to most of the low-income consumers. But with the pandemic and then following the huge changes in the EV market and then lack of funding, everything started to go on pause, and we couldn't relaunch or open the program sooner. So folks like you who need these incentives the most could benefit from them. I apologize for that. We did everything on our end, but unfortunately there are a series of events that are out of our control, like the funding delays or availability of funds last year. With regards to the cap that you mentioned, we have seen applicants have been waiting on the reservation list for over a year and a half, and now purchasing vehicles with a price tag of over $100,000, $150,000, very expensive luxury cars. Those are the outliers. We looked at the program data and past participants. We did deeply analyze the demographic data that we collect. Majority of the very low income consumers purchased vehicles below $40,000. That's why last year in the funding plan, we proposed to implement a cap of $40,000 just to design the program around the core participants who are very low income. Again, with the price increases and the shortage of the new and used inventory, the prices went up. So we are just trying to accommodate and increase the cap to $45,000. But we recognize that there still there's some specific vehicle types like minivans or some trucks are not eligible on this category, but we are working to analyze and collect more information, make more changes just to make sure that low-income consumers have access and options to purchase the vehicles that work for them. I would pass it to Lisa if you'd like to add more. But again, thank you very much for being part of our public process. And again, I apologize that you couldn't benefit from these incentives.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is, Eric, I hear your frustration, and I really do empathize with it. We wish we could have a much quicker process on this. It hasn't been easy getting through kind of the minutia of the policy decisions around this. And as you know, there are several that would, like us to continue to have these meetings, but we really want to get the new program open. Again, we do see this as a stopgap, and this, I think your conversations with Ali is part of what has prompted us to move quickly to at least get this stopgap open in the meantime, because we really do think it's going to take, even once we get a new administrator on board, at least a good 6 months, if not a tiny bit longer, to really get the new program open. And it's been so long already. And so having a stopgap program in the meantime, so there are opportunities for folks like you and your friends to get in and get a vehicle that you need. We think that's really important. And it is challenging. We are trying to balance several things here. It is a limited amount of money. And based on, where the economy is in general, we have to treat all of the dollars here as though they're limited dollars and have to put certain things on them, certain restrictions on them. And the purchase price cap is just one of those that, like Ali said, we didn't arbitrarily pick these numbers. These numbers, there was a lot of thought that went into them and a lot of data that we used to kind of figure out where we thought the right sweet spot would be. This conversation around taxes that's come up today, though, I think I don't imagine, excuse me, I don't imagine that it impact. I mean, we looked at a lot of data on the vehicle, so I don't imagine that the taxes are removing that many different vehicles from the list of what we see as being affordable under that 45K. But I do recognize that does limit your ability to get something that has that longer range, that much nicer vehicle, and something that maybe you'd really prefer to have rather than something that you just kind of would have to get. And we know that that's a difficult choice. So to keep the conversation open with us, we are still trying to figure out what the best approach is going forward. So the comments are helpful.
Thank you, Erica. Our next speaker is Paul Hogan. Paul, I've opened your line.
Hi, thanks again.
Sorry, Paul, I accidentally muted you. Try again.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I just was wondering if stacking is going to be available in the new the needs-based model when it comes out, like the DCAP and CVAP. Are they going to be able to stack again?
Yes, not with each other, because they both fall under the financing assistance project. But if consumers are purchasing new vehicles, they can stack with CVRP. Or if consumers are retiring an eligible vehicle through CC4A, they can sign up and benefit from the fair financing or low interest rate financing that we offer through financing assistance program.
Is that still 8%?
Up to 8%, yes.
Okay. And I also a couple of years ago had qualified with CVAP. My problem with it was, well, COVID was going on, but they extended the time that you could use the grant or the certificate for up to 90 days, which I know it sounds like a reasonable amount of time, but in reality, it isn't, because of the shortages. And if you have to order a car, it can take up, as we all know, to several months. So I just wanted to bring that point up as well. And just a point of clarification. on the DCAP earlier, did you mention that? I just spoke to them the other day. They said they did not have any funds. Did you say that they do now will have $1 million to tide them over till the new program comes out?
This is our proposal to allocate 1 million from last year's funding that we were supposed to put under the solicitation moving forward. We recognize the need, and we are. This is our proposal to allocate $1 million of that money and reopen the DCAP moving forward.
Okay, so when will that proposal be answered, or is it? And when will it go into effect? Do you know?
At the end of this worker meeting, actually, this is one of the reasons that we would like to take your feedback and other stakeholders' feedback. If there's no, opposition, we move forward and we get started the process to allocate the money.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure.
Just to clarify on timing for folks that are interested, once we've had this meeting today and gotten this feedback, like Ali said, we do still need to get the money under grant. That will take a little bit of time. So the programs won't open tomorrow. They probably won't open until maybe the earliest, like the end of January is what I would guess. We do, fortunately, with state government, we do have an administrative process we got to go through. We have started though, so don't worry. We're not waiting to get started. We're trying to get our ducks in a row, but it will take a little bit of time, especially with the holidays. So we'll make an announcement, and we'll put out an announcement through our listserv. So the same way you were notified about this meeting, we will put out an announcement when we do open the programs up, so that folks are aware.
Okay. And then finally, the dealerships. That could be a meeting in itself, but if there's a way that you all can communicate more clearly with the dealerships and educate them on these processes and expand the dealerships that will work with these programs. That's a whole thing in itself. Like, you get all this information, make applications, and then you can't find a dealership, or the dealerships don't know anything about it. And maybe also along those lines, that we ourselves are educated. For example, if we have a grant or a loan, at what point in the negotiations is it best to present that information to the dealership to benefit us the most? So I know that's a long and separate discussion, but just to bring it up.
No, these are all great points. Just to start with the dealership issue, that it has been an issue from the beginning. It has its own kind of challenges, but we've worked, we made it very easy for dealerships to participate in this program. It was just a basic terms and condition, and they needed just to sign, and will be added to the list of approved dealers in the past. But with the COVID and businesses being closed, and then all kinds of stuff that we all know, and then coming back to super hot used vehicle markets, there was not much of interest on the dealers' end, as well as lack of money and program closures on our end. There was a lot of confusion. We recognize that. We have plans to just utilize our past capacities and experience working with the dealers to onboard them, make it very easy and streamlined for them just to get that. With regards to you as program participants, when is the right or best time to approach a dealer? Is just once you have the approval packet from the program administrators, you have gone through the income verification and everything has been sorted out, you are ready just to maximize the time that you can go out and purchase your vehicle. If the dealer of your choice is not on the list, you can talk to them, introduce them to the program administrator, and they can just quickly add them to the list. That leads me to the earlier question that you asked about the 90-day time frame for purchasing the vehicles. That's been a challenge as well. Before the pandemic, when the program was open, we had 35 days as the time for consumers to go out and purchase their vehicle. There was no wait list, no pre-order, nothing. It was very straightforward. We changed the process. We adapted to meet the needs of consumers, and we extended that time up to 120 days, just to make sure that those consumers who went through the rigorous process of application verification or income verification and application processing, and now they are at the point that they have the approval packet and they are ready to go out and purchase, there's no vehicle out there. So we just worked with them up to 120 days. At the same time, we are trying to strike a balance here. There are some applicants out there waiting to go through the process and get their approval process, application process. So we don't want to hold on the money too long, that some people like Erica who have been waiting so long so that, you know what, forget about it. I have to take the bullet and purchase the vehicle. So we would like to strike a balance here, not too long of the hold or giving too much of time for folks just to work with. Some manufacturers that they have a very long wait list for luxury custom-made vehicles, but at the same time, reasonable time to be able to find the right vehicle. So we are continuously monitoring the market situation, dealers, and working with our program administrators to adjust in such a way that in the best interest of our program participants.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. It looks like we have 7 raised hands, just letting you know for time check. The next raised hand will be Alex Emery. Alex, I've opened your line.
Hi there, my name is Alex. I'm part of one of the CDOs with the boots on the ground. And I wanted to kind of echo very loudly what the last few people have been saying. I know that you're bringing up the issue of the more expensive vehicles being purchased with the funds. And I just wanted to kind of, remind you that during 2020, everyone's taxes were very different than normal. And we had a lot of people qualify for the program who normally wouldn't qualify for the program. I know that we witnessed people getting more luxury vehicles on our end as well, but we couldn't do anything because they did in fact qualify for the program. But when we obtained 2021 taxes, people harshly significantly were out of range for being a part of the program. So I just wanted to say to take those with a grain of salt and kind of remember the time frame that was done within, because the 45,000 price cap, while I understand, you're allocating only $4 million and you kind of have to make it work. These dealer markups have been out of control. I mean, we're looking at a good 10,000 in our area that dealers are charging. And, like the previous speaker said, it's really kind of bumping people out from having the capability of purchasing a vehicle that's going to work for them. I could easily get a Mini Cooper that's going to have 100 miles of range, but it's not going to do the job that it needs to do for someone who, like she said, is having to hustle every day just to kind of make ends meet, along with insurance and a car payment, and vehicle repairs. And I also wanted to bring up the dealerships. I know that we've had trouble, getting them on board, but I think a really important thing is trying to get them to be friends in a sense, to kind of help bring these markups down, but also because we've literally had our clients turned away, packets in hand, money ready to go, because they just don't want to deal with it, even though they've been fully enrolled in the program since the beginning. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was vehicle orders. I know that vehicle orders would be a wonderful way to circumvent these markups and to make sure that people are meeting the correct price caps without having dealerships add on ridiculous things that they don't need just to drive up the price. So I know that like with time frames, it's going to be more difficult, but I feel like having online orders or maybe relationships with OEMs to get those online orders out as fast as possible would really help make sure that these vehicles are more accessible while still meeting your price cap requirements.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, these are all great points, and we are trying to, find ways to address and find the best solutions to some of these kind of unsolvable problems that we have. Really appreciate the direct or vehicle orders that just takes out of the equation the markups and stuff, but still the issue is going to be for those who are purchasing used vehicles, unfortunately. And to be honest, I personally have a lot of anxieties finding a way just to deal with the markups. They are not acceptable, and they are hitting the low-income consumers really bad in this market. But thank you very much for your comments, and we'll definitely take into considerations, especially moving to the needs-based model. We have more control over, filtering out some of the applications who are taking advantage of these incentives, for example, and making more adjustments and being more flexible towards those who needs these money the most, and hopefully offer them more under the hood incentives and more custom-made services.
Thank you, Alex. The next person I'll open the line for is Ashley Goldlist. Ashley, your line's open.
Hello, thank you. I'm just confirming that the DCAP is statewide, open statewide. Maybe it always was. I guess I just Googled and I just saw it come up for Sacramento and the Bay Area communities.
Drive Killing Assistance Program, or DCAP, is our what we call it is a local program or regional program serving 14 counties in Northern California. Our statewide program is CVAP, Clean Vehicle Assistance Program.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Is there a low income financing one that's for statewide?
That's the
Clean Vehicle Assist, because I
CVAP.
thought Clean Vehicle Assisting Program was a grant, but not the grant part. I guess I'm meaning like the financial assistance part for low income communities. Do you know? I guess do you know what I mean? Like the loan part of it.
So we have a financing assistance project. And there are two different programs under this project category, DCAP and CVAP. CVAP is the statewide, and both programs provide grants as the vehicle purchase price buy down, as well as facilitating access to low interest loans. If a participant is going to Clean Vehicle Assistance Program, CVAP, and their application is approved, they can link them to partner banks, and if qualified, they can take out a loan that is maxed at 8% APR.
Okay.
The same goes with DCAP.
So CVAP can stack with CVRP,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
CVRP, kind of like DCAP can.
DCAP can too.
Yeah, because of the same.
Yes.
But not with Clean Cars for All. But with, yeah, sorry, I'll let you talk. Yeah.
The grant portion cannot be stacked with
Yes, the loan part
Exactly.
could, because it's fine. Or,
yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
And the federal grant could. I was reading.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it's separate.
Yes.
Separate funding pools. Okay, so yeah, those are the two ones. Pretty much that's the only state one that could co-fund with it.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sure. So this is going to be just temporary as we bridge this gap hopefully with the needs-based model coming together with joint solicitation, we are going to have more coordination for an alignment between financing assistance, statewide clean cars for all, and CVRP for low-income consumers. So hopefully by the time we have a program administrator in place and we launch the program, there is going to be a lot of these confusions resolved, and consumers face a very streamlined, simple application and program stacking process.
This is all going to be hosted on Access Clean CA, right?
That is one.
Eventually,
yes.
Right? Okay. I work for a air quality organization, and I've done this. I've gone through the process myself, but then trying to, show other people how to do it when, they're not an expert and I am. But so I'm very, excited that this is going to be done here. So great work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next raised hand will be Tracy Van. Tracy, your line's open. Tracy, are you there? Okay, in the meantime, I'm gonna move on to the next person in line, which is Alexia Martineau. Alexia, your line's open.
Hi, Ali. Hi, Lisa. This is Alexia with Plug-in America. I just had a question about the process for dealers. So both under the stopgap measure that you all are proposing, as well as for the full rollout of the programs in 2023. I know you mentioned that it was a basic sign-up system for dealers in the past, and there was lots of interest. And now with the flooding of the market, dealers aren't seeing the program likely as as attractive because they're getting all the sales that they need, as we've heard. So I'm just curious, what that's going to look like for the stopgap measure, how you're planning to reach out to the right dealers, and make sure that the dealers are available in the communities that really need them, as well as what that's going to look like for the full program.
Thank you, Alexia. We hope that by reopening the programs, our dealer outreach team reach out to all those previously enlisted dealers just to renew their contract or interests and put them back on the list. Many of them are sale. But at the same time, working with community-based organizations, if there are any opportunities or capacities over there that community-based organizations work with dealers, bring them up to speed about these opportunities and the values that they can bring to communities. Hopefully we can, at the community level, we can work together just to make sure that dealers are on the list and offer service and fair services to the residents of those communities. That's what we can do at this point of time, just reaching out and making sure that everybody is up to date and is up to speed. But with regards to the interest and, I don't know what we can do.
Yeah,
it's a tough one. Yeah.
Definitely tricky. Okay, I guess maybe a suggestion from our end would be to include language in the guidance that you share with dealers to, say that it's easier to work with CARB the more that you price your vehicles fairly. I mean, there's not a lot we can do to cap the markups, but maybe incentivizing them to have a closer relationship with CARB, and therefore we can send more customers to their door, or with CBOs could be a potential incentive to rein in markups. But tricky problem.
Yeah, but thank you very much for your suggestion. I'm just taking notes and definitely will take them to consideration.
Thank you. Tracy, if you're around, I'm gonna try your line again. Okay. I'm going to lower Tracy's hand. Our next person in line is Maria Ruiz. Maria, I've opened your line.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, good morning. First of all, thank you so much, Lisa and Ollie, for being so patient with all of our questions and our comments. I really appreciate you having this platform for a lot of us to speak. So my name is Maria. I work with the EV Equity Program here in the San Joaquin Valley. We're a community-based organization helping low to moderate income residents get into EVs. I do want to echo the sentiments about dealerships. I'm sorry, I know we've talked about this a lot already, but I really want to emphasize that working with the dealerships has been kind of like pushing a stone uphill. It's been very hard. We are the boots on the ground here. We're working one-on-one with residents. The things that we've seen and we've heard from our clients is really not fair. We've had clients turned away with their grants in hand, with cash in hand, because dealerships don't want to work with the grants. So maybe they're not enrolled. I know it sounds kind of easy to like, hey, if you go to a dealership, just let them know about the program and like they could be enrolled. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as that when they're competing with 2 or 3 people trying to buy the same vehicle, but that person doesn't have a grant that has to be applied to the contract. I know that the grants are not hard to include into contracts, but it has definitely made it difficult for a lot of our clients. I have heard from other dealerships as well that they don't want to work with low-income people over the phone. So unfortunately, there has also been that stigma that we have faced. And I think that's another thing that we have to keep in mind. But if there was some sort of way where these, dealership outreach leads were really working hand in hand with these dealerships to make sure that they know all the jargon, they know all the language, they know where everything has to go, that will make our lives and the lives of our clients a lot easier. So I just really want to put that on the table. It has been very hard as a CBO. We have managed to enroll dealerships on our own and with the help of the incentive programs. But, we as community-based organizations, we're working a lot of battles, a lot of frontiers. So any help that we could get to make sure that these dealerships are well-educated, well-rounded, and know what these programs are and the impact that they're doing, I think that that'll be a huge help to us. And thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Really appreciate, and we rely on your feedback and your great work at the community level that you are doing. And I can assure you that on our end, we are trying to do everything just to expedite the process for cutting the check and getting the dealers' money as soon as the transaction is done, just to take away any kind of excuses from them. But still, the issue is huge, and hopefully together we can work and overcome and make sure that low-income consumers can get access to fair ZEV purchase process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next raised hand will be Jonathan Changas.
Hi, good morning. Jonathan Changas with the Center for Sustainable Energy. And as kind of context, we're weighing in. CSE is the administrator of the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project. We support SAC Metro Clean Cars for All as the case manager. We also currently administer the Southern California Edison used EV program. So we work both with CARB as well as other entities in trying to reach the same kind of target market, target audiences of lower income folks, particularly in disadvantaged communities that are in greatest need of assistance. And it's from that perspective, just there's a lot of good stuff going on in the state, but there's just a lot. And to that end, just want to really re-emphasize and promote something that CARB is very well aware of, but just doubling down on public record, which is kind of the critical importance that community partners, community-based organizations play in trying to help our target audiences understand and make sense of all of the changes. I mean, just looking ahead, we're going to see potentially a reopening of DCAP and CVA program in January. There'll be program rule changes for incentive amounts for CVRP in February. And then there'll be, pre-approval for CVRP launching statewide, which is fantastic. In July, somewhere in between there and after July, then we'll see a transition to the statewide financing assistance program, and then a needs-based model, and there'll be a statewide Clean Cars for All program, but there's all the district programs as well. That's just a lot. That's a lot to try and coordinate and help folks navigate. We really rely heavily. We would not be able to reach the audiences we can reach without community partners. So just promoting that, we need to make sure as administrators that that's kind of front and center. Applaud whatever can be done to simplify it. As you guys know, consistent funding and fewer rule changes help people understand and navigate. We're in a state of transition as we're evolving, as the market is crazy, as there's supply chain issues, as we're really trying to emphasize as a state in a policy space, the low income bit. All that requires change to programs, which is understandable, but we're not going to be successful without community partners. All that complexity also exists on the dealer end too. And as has been noted, their value proposition for being partners is somewhat limited today, but it won't always be that way. And they're also the ones that hand the keys over that are central to part of the transaction. So how do we bring them to the table? Something that we've spent quite a bit of time working on, and we'll continue to do so. And it is a challenge, and it's going to be something that pre-qualification point of sale programs need dealers at the table to participate. And so how do we do that is an open question, and Plug-in America is a great resource and has done some good work. CSE has worked with our dealers as well, and will continue to do so. But the process has to kind of account for what do the applicants need? How do we equip CDOs to help folks get through the process, as well as making sure the dealers are something, the programs are something dealers are encouraged and want to participate in. That's just a lot. So I appreciate you leading very complicated and complex questions. Appreciate a lot of the dialogue that we've heard here, very important. I think testament being given today, and looking forward to moving forward. But go CDOs, I guess is my final thought.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate your comments.
Yeah, thank you. We have one more raised hand, and that's Andrew Krulwitz. Andrew, I've opened your line.
Hi, thanks again, and thanks for letting me chime in once more. Ollie reminded me that there is a interest rate cap in the financing assistance, and then also in CVAP for any outside financing. It's 12% there, I think. I think you should consider revising those immediately. We finance cars for customers as well. So we offer short-term leases, if you don't know what we do, and then we help customers buy the car after they've driven the car for 6 months. And most customers who would potentially qualify for a lot of these incentives are now seeing interest rates in the mid to high teens. The prime rate for used cars from one of our finance partners is 9.99%. That is the prime rate for used cars. So non-prime and subprime rates are double that.
Thank you, Andrew, for raising that point. Yes, when we started the program a couple of years ago, the interest rate cap was at 16%. We lowered it to 12%, and then for partner banks at 8%, with the goal that we can just make it 8% across the board. With the current market situation and interest rates, we were just being cautious about what to do, but limiting to disadvantaged communities and CBO referrals. Maybe this is something that we need to revisit, and just making it 8% at this point across the board for all consumers. This is something that we look for feedback.
Well, I'm afraid if you make it 8% across the board, nobody will get approved.
We offer loan loss reserve, though.
Yeah, I think, Andrew, I think the most important thing to know is the way that we've structured this program is we've brought in financial partners that are willing to offer loans at those amounts. And that's what we are really trying to do, is push the industry. We want to help consumers get into loans that aren't predatory, and that's our number one goal. Second, or I shouldn't say number one goal. Number one goal is to help them get into financing. But get into financing in a way that's non-predatory and gets them at rates that make it successful for them to be able to actually maintain that loan over the term that's identified, so that they have opportunities to do things like repairing credit, getting other loans down the line, and really be successful and keep that vehicle. And with partners in the program that are able to do it, what that tells us is that we know there's an industry out there. We know there's an industry where the rates are going to be higher, but a low income person coming into our program, we have banks that will support them at 8%. So if they're going to get 18% somewhere else, they should think about putting in the application and going through the motions in these programs, because we're going to support them with the loan loss reserve account. We're willing to take that risk to help them get into these cars.
Great. I completely aligned and I appreciate all of that. It was just flagging for what we're seeing in the market.
Yep. No, and we know, and I expect it's going to probably get worse before it gets better. Yep. But those financial partners of ours are really important. And as long as we can keep them low and in the program, we will. If we are finding that it is especially hard to even keep them low in the program, we'll accommodate and we'll make sure that we've adjusted how we're structuring it for the outside loans as well.
That's all we have for raised hands at this time.
Okay, thank you, Bianca. Appreciate it. So with no more raised hand, I'd like to thank you all again for joining us today. And this is my email address and Lisa's email address. Please send us your thoughts, comments, or questions through these email addresses. And you can also find my email address on the meeting notice that we sent out 2 weeks ago. With that, thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.